Good morning.
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 Morning. Good morning, Your Holiness. It's so wonderful to see you. My only regret is that we're not seeing each other in person.
Okay.
To begin, Your Holiness, on behalf of Mind and Life Europe, thank you for accepting our invitation to speak with you this morning.
Deep, gosh, okay. Yes.
At Mind and Life Europe, we're working hard to fulfill your vision to expand the work of Mind and Life in the world, and I'm really happy to tell you that we're very well established in Europe.
This 이게 안 수대 하다 그래서 빠르면 되게 공도 말해 산주 좋아 어디든 빠르 대샤시 Yes.
We're happy to see you and happy to tell you that we are well established in Europe, and we're also developing our friendships with our Russian colleagues. You know, Mind and Life Europe has a very special flavor to it, since it is as diverse as the European Union is. And like the European Union, we're always working with both the joys and the challenges that this diversity offers us, in order to share our experiences and knowledge in a way that will allow us to have impact on science and society throughout Europe and in the world. The questions today, Your Holiness, that we're asking are urgent questions and would have been of great interest to your friend, our friend, Francisco Varela. His existence was dedicated to the investigation of life and mind and to how to conduct a passionate and ethical science.
I always keep this picture with me. He really introduced me about modern science. He himself, you see, he often, you see, mentioning or expressing when we discuss about, you see, science, then he say, with science hat. Then when you see some Buddhist concept, then he say, Buddhist cap. Really very nice. So he, one of the person, you see, who eventually, you see, develop the dialogue with the modern scientist. Eventually now, number of scientists now showing interest about, you see, psychology or science of mind, and also, you see, the person who have some experience, deeper meditation. You see, their mind, their brain, something different. So, okay, now, yes.
So, Your Holiness, today we have 4 questions related to interdependence and our common humanity. So some question about So there are some related to our personal feelings of isolation and loneliness or connectedness, and some related to more global issue. So the first question is related to our feeling of isolation. Until recently, I was in my hermitage in Nepal, alone, practicing, And I would get from time to time calls from journalists saying people feel very, very difficult to be with themselves, to be with their own mind. They have no tools to deal with that, and in isolation. And other people felt great sense of love and connectedness with their dear ones, connection with nature. So there was very, very different reaction. I was quite surprised that people didn't have to have the tools to deal with their own mind and just to be with themselves. Anyway, today we have a scientist, Andreas Roepstorff, who is professor in Denmark on the anthropology and neuroscience. And he has been studying the very different reaction of people to confinement, to be not able to carry their activities, to be sort of only able to meet a few people, and very, very different types of reaction, which is quite interesting about this sense of connectedness and common humanity. So Andreas, please could you enlighten us about your findings?
Thank you very much, Matthieu, and thank you very much, His Holiness, for taking the time to listen to us. So we are very interested in what is it that we experience in these strange times here, and how can we ask about it? How is it possible to give a voice to people so they can say, this is what we feel, this is what we experience. And it is very difficult because people are in isolation, so we cannot meet in the same way. But one of the ways we have tried to do it, and I will just share the screen with you here, is to create a small website where people can answer a simple question. The question we all ask of them is to just formulate the sentence, I used to something, now I do something else. And in this question between thinking about what I used to do and what I do now, there is a whole world of reflection opening up. And as Matthieu was saying, we see very different responses coming back. We thought at first that most of them would be very sad responses coming in. People would be missing what they hadn't seen before. So someone a few days ago said, we used to enjoy going out and meeting new people. Now we feel lost and useless. But very interestingly, we also see a lot of sentences, and probably even more, which is about people discovering something that was always near to them. So someone that said, I used to trust nobody. Now I worry for the nearest person to me. It is as if this space of isolation is not just leading to a lot of sorrow, but is also leading to a lot of discovery of what is important in yourself and in others. But in that process, it would be absolutely wonderful if you could share with us something from your tradition about, what are the tools we can bring to ourselves and to the world in this situation to help not feeling lonely, because many people feel lonely. And what is there to discover in these moments here?
I feel in the past, you see, firstly, different nation, more or less, also the independent, or that means a little bit isolated. So in ancient time, the reality, each nation, each village, more or less self-sufficient and independent. So such circumstances, then when they use the word we, very small circle. Now today, the reality, firstly, global warming, telling us we are same, we remain same planet. Then global economy. No differences east or west, south and north. So that new reality now, you see, our ancient sort of thinking, small circle we, that outdated. Now we should think entire 7 billion human beings on this planet. So we are same. Our future, their future are linked. So that's the new reality. Now, according to that new reality, our old thinking simply not fit. So now, I think we Buddhists, entire sentient being, semje thamje, sentient being, and we usually, you see, use the word mother sentient being, entire sentient being, like one's own mother. And then, according, you say, Christian tradition or those theistic religion, we all created by one God. So there is no differences. You see, we created by another God and they created by another God. No, one God. So now, from the theistic religious viewpoint, we all brothers, sisters from one Father. Like Jesus Christ is our Supreme Father. So all human beings on this planet is actually come from one Father. The Buddhists use mother-centered being, as I mentioned earlier. So now, and the reality, as I mentioned earlier, now today's reality, we heavily interdependent, east and west, north, south. So now, according, you say, realistically speaking, according to today's reality, we should consider oneness of 7 billion human beings. I always try to promote the sort of sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. We have to live together on this planet. And the future depends on us. So now, ancient time, too much emphasis we at a day, that creates a lot of problem. Now we should develop sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. There is no basis, you see, to develop a strong feeling of we and they. That kind of sort of, how to say, strong feeling creates problem, and including killing, war, on the very basis of concept of we and they. So now we must develop a sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. And then, according some scientists, basic human nature is, since we are social animal, so by nature there is a feeling of the sense of we. Look, other animals, those social animals, in order to survive one individual, you see, they need the group or the community. Without that, one single sort of animal cannot survive. So, by nature, any social animal have the sense of we. So now, today, entire 7 billion human beings on this planet, we are same human being, same human sort of family. So we have to think more the sense of we, rather than we and they. In ancient time, it's a small group. Even today, conflict very much based on sense of we and they. So in order to develop genuine world peace, now we must also educate people. We are same human being. We have to live together on this planet. So now, weapon no longer any use. Weapon means kill, eliminate other one. So that's unrealistic. Now we have to think, we all same human being. We have to live together. So of course, human being has a very sort of brilliant brain. So different interests, different views, and different religion. So differences there. Then, meantime, we think broader sort of sense. We have to live together here. So no use, you see, to sort of criticize or fight each other, since we entire 7 billion human beings have to live together. And then different religion, in spite of different philosophy, all carry same message of love, message of forgiveness, tolerance, contentment, self-discipline, all major religious tradition, in spite of different philosophy, different concept, but all carry same message. So, as far as different religious concern, you see, if we think deeper way, the real message of these different religions, then same. I myself, you see, I'm Buddhist. You see, I have a number of friends among the Christian, among the Muslim, among the Jews, among the, I said, the Zoroastrian, like that. No? We all, you see, practice loving kindness. So therefore, you see, different religious tradition, I think simple word I usually is telling, all these different religion is a religion of human being. So naturally, all these religion, you see, carry topmost important is basic human value. That is human compassion. Like that. So, now, one of my commitment is try to promote sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. That's very important. Then there are differences. That's minor. We must, you see, we must think the basic, basic thing. We should not sacrifice our basic sort of nature due to differences. That's wrong. Okay.
Your Holiness, on the personal level, as Andreas said, many people had a very hard time facing loneliness. You know, I remember once a journalist asked you whether you ever feel lonely, and you said, "Oh, why should I feel lonely?" I mean, as a practitioner, we think of all sentient beings. We don't feel like isolated and lonely. So what would you say to those millions of people who have this very strong and poignant and intense sense of loneliness and isolation? How to best deal with their minds and somehow open to others and sort of remedy to that sense of loneliness?
Oh, that's, I think, according to the Buddhist science of mind, then the self-centered feeling, I, then loneliness comes. Oh. So, your neighbors, and ultimately entire human being are same because of the member of same human family, and we have to live together. So then loneliness gone. With too much emphasis, I. Oh, then loneliness create. So when we met someone, so if you keep suspicion, distrust, then you get the loneliness feeling. Anyone, when you met, believe another human brother, sister, smile. More altruistic attitude, then loneliness no longer. So these are the way of thinking. I'm practice is the sameness of 7 billion human beings. With that feeling, with that concept, wherever I go, I always feel, oh, I met another human being, another human brother, human sister. No differences. So immediately, you see, make friend. If I too much sort of emphasis, I'm Tibetan, I'm Easterner, and then particularly I'm Buddhist, then you see, visit Europe or America, you see, something different. No. There are little differences. That's a superficial level. Basic level, firstly, we're born from mother. All our physical sort of condition, same 7 billion human being. I think some different views or with that different emotion. That is, I think, our education. Too much emphasis on differences. The existing education, not much mention oneness of 7 billion human beings. So if I keep the strong feeling, I'm Tibetan, I'm Buddhist, or I'm Dalai Lama, then you get the loneliness. Of course, on this planet, one Dalai Lama. So you get the feeling of lonely. No wife, no children, nothing. But thinking, entire 7 billion beings are actually my brothers, sisters, so ready to help. Then there's no basis of loneliness. So these are the reality. We are part of 7 billion human beings. And mentally, too much emphasis, I, then loneliness feeling come. All these way of thinking, the psychological thinking. Okay.
So also there's another aspect, it's the time of uncertainty. We don't know what to believe. Everything changed very quickly. Someday you are said to do something. Some say no, the opposite should be done. So Andreas is studying in the media how people are constantly confronted with news which tells completely different thing, and people get very confused. So Andreas, can you just show us how much this kind of news coming all the time and changing all the time gets very confusing? Maybe say a few words about that.
Yes, I can try to do this. And thank you very much for your analysis of the I and the we. I think this is what a lot of people discover. But what we also hear when we ask people about the current situation is they experience a lot of uncertainty. They experience that they don't know what happens next, and they don't know who to trust. And what we have seen in the last 6 months is something very interesting in terms of the information we receive. It is as if two things are spreading. There is both a virus that spreads, but there is also information that spreads. And that information, it moves much, much faster than the virus. But it also moves in ways that are unusual and difficult to understand. And I will try to show a little bit about how we can see this. So I will share the screen again. It's a little bit complicated, but I will try to talk us all through it.
Oh, as I already mentioned, what? Huh?
So usually one of the main sources of our understanding of the world are the newspapers. And what we did was that we took a computer, a neural network. I will tell about all the things here. And we asked it to say, try just to read the front page of the newspaper in an ordinary situation. And newspapers, what do? They produce something new. And we could do two things. We could look at a newspaper and say, today's newspaper, how predictable is it from the newspaper last week? And if the newspaper has news in it, you should not be able to know what is in the newspaper today if you read the last week. But then on the other hand, if the news is an important news, it should stick around. It should still be relevant for the time being, for the next future, because otherwise it is just a news that does nothing good. So you want the news which is in the newspaper to be novel, but it also should be useful and to stick around and to be there. What we have tried to show here is on the top panel here, we set a computer to read a newspaper during the last 6 months. And we can see there is a lot of novelty here. So the newspaper always contains something new. But then in Denmark, at around the time when the virus came to Denmark and the country went down in the lockdown, there was really no news in the newspaper any longer because everything was only about the virus. Now, on the other hand, we could see that when we look at will the news stick around, then at the same time, when the lockdown happened, when the virus hit us, it was also as if everything was about the virus. And in this lower panel here, I will try to explain this. It's a little bit complicated. We can see that normally, when there is something that's really novel in the newspaper, it should also stick around. It should not be fake news. It should be useful for a while. This happened before the virus hit China. It happened as the virus was moving towards Europe. And when it suddenly hit Europe, then in our newspapers here, you can see there is no link any longer. There is no relationship between whether something is novel and whether something sticks. Something might be novel, but the next day it's not important any longer. And this goes on for a long time. And then we can see now, as the situation stabilizes, it becomes more normal. We can trust the news to tell us something. So this is not us reading a newspaper. It is just looking at what happens in the news. But it gives an idea of a very complicated world we have been going through, where in a sense, it's all about the same, but whatever news is around is not useful tomorrow. And there is a huge question about, what can we trust in this situation? And how can we live with this kind of uncertainty? When we ask people about what have they experienced the last 6 months, what a lot of people come back to is, I don't know how to navigate. I don't know who to trust. I don't know what to trust. And that uncertainty for many people is very, very difficult to handle. And we are trying to figure out what can we do to make it easier to handle that uncertainty. And it would be absolutely wonderful if you could tell us something about, from your perspective, what is it like to live with uncertainty? And how can we help each other to live with uncertainty and to figure out who to trust in that situation?
가셔서. I think today's world, our education system very much also they focusing about external thing, material thing. The modern education completely, I think, ignore or lack of knowledge about mind, about emotion. Now, for example, I often you see expressing the physical health, the actually hygiene of physical important, but more important, hygiene of mental peace, mental health. So now the modern education, modern whole way of life, very much emphasis material value. And education itself, you see, related with material value. Not much talk about our inner world. So I usually call hygiene of physical important, more important, hygiene of emotion, more important. So for that, we have to sort of learn about human mind, particularly human emotion. That's Indian tradition. It's more explanation about our mind, about our emotion. The over 3,000-year-old India, the concept of ahimsa, non-violence, and the concept of karuna, compassion, over 3,000 years. And with that, sort of analytical meditation, that is vipassana, and single-pointed meditation, shamatha. These about 3,000 years already developed in this country. So I often used to telling my Indian friend, the Indian now should combine ancient Indian knowledge with modern education. So now Western education or modern education, mainly the external material thing, and when we say mind, only the sensorial level mind, not sixth mind. So those emotions very much related with sixth mind. The eye conscious sense of because of seeing, hearing, smell, these are the branch of mind. Real mind is sixth mind. All emotion come from that level, sixth mind. So in order to deal with mental sort of problem, we have to know the whole system of mind. Then here the scientist, particularly the scientist about brain scientist, you see, they also, you see, they have something to say. Now, for example, quantum physics, things not exist, now at least a material thing, not exist as appears. According to quantum physics, you see, these, you see, appearances, if we investigate the deeper level, all particles. So no independent sort of absolute thing. So all the emotion related with appearances. So the quantum physics, you see, nothing exists as appears, at least in a material thing. So now some student about quantum physics, you see, they less grasping on the basis of appearances. You see, they know deeper level particle, not as appears. So we usually, you see, good, bad, enemy, friend, all are on the basis of appearances. So appearance, something independent. The reality, nothing exists as appears. All those negative emotion, you see, based on appearances. You see, this concept, some ancient Indian concept, some connection. One of my Indian friend, Raja Ramana, you see, he once told me, quantum physics in the West, you see, newly developed. In this country, 2,500 years ago, already developed. Then he recite some sentences, like Nagarjuna's sentences like that. So therefore, now time come, in education field, we should include education about our mind in order to develop healthy mind, similar healthy body, healthy mind, very important. Nothing to do with next life, nothing to do with Buddha or God. Simply, you see, in more detailed knowledge about our mind, because all these emotions are part of our mind. So emotion creates a lot of problem. So therefore, now one good thing is all negative emotion, destructive emotion, very much based on appearances. One, you see, quantum physics, nothing exists as appears. You see, it helps to reduce the grasping or something good there, something bad there. That kind of strong grasping, reduce. Then I think good thing is all destructive emotion very much based on appearances. So no proper basis. The positive emotions such as compassion, these are then wisdom. These not depend on appearances, but deeper reality. So destructive emotion just based on appearances, no further develop. Certain all the certain it come very strongly, but there is no way to meditate on anger. No. On compassion, yes, we can meditate. Because meditate not grasping on appearances, but deeper level. So we can use reason. Through reason, and then meditate, both analytical meditation and single-pointed meditation. So through that way, the deeper level of such emotions, such as compassion, karuna, can increase. The negative emotion, very powerful, but no proper basis. If we study...
This is very interesting, sorry, from the research we do.
I think firstly, according Indian tradition, secular way, nothing to do with religion, just a part of education, or secular way, and academic subject, in order to develop healthy mind, with healthy mind, healthy body, and happy life. Not talking about next life or karma or these things. Simply, healthy body, healthy mind, peaceful mind, one individual, one family, that combined whole 7 billion human beings can develop through such education more peaceful-minded human being. Okay. So education, I feel, as I mentioned earlier, the education about our mind, about our emotion, should include in our education program. I think people, like student, child, when they are very young, you see, by nature, you see, they love, I think firstly, compassion or altruism taught us by our mother, with mother's milk, by human, as a social animal, you see, children, you see, they already sort of experienced, surrounded with smiling children, then played together. You see, no idea what is their religion, what is their nation, what is their family situation. No, so long, children smiling, played together, same. Then once we join school, then in modern school, not sort of talking about deeper human value, simply material thing. Then, you see, in education, or even you see, same village, children from same village, then so through education, and we say, oh, he is Muslim, we Christian, so on, make differences. Education system, something lacking, I feel, on the basis of basic human nature, human value. These should take top priority. And then different religion, different nation, and different color, these are minor. So I feel very strongly the education should include education about our emotion, about our mind. So that's the really, in order to develop peaceful individual, peaceful community, peaceful nation, finally peaceful world. That's very important. Okay.
So do you have something, Andreas, to add?
Yes, so it's a very, the analysis is very precise on what we see from our research. It is as if the world goes through a large experiment now on how is it to be with ourselves and how is it to be with others. And in that period, we see also a lot of emotions go up and down. And very interestingly, sometimes we can see the positive emotion of optimism goes up together with the negative emotion of fear and despair. So it's a very difficult question for us to understand what to do with the negative emotions in this situation. One question could be, in this situation, many people suddenly discover, or it becomes very visible, that there is a lot of inequality and there is a lot of injustice in the world. This is also happening now. And a lot of people become angry when they see that. And we can see from our research that they say, I am no longer part of that we I used to be part of, because there is so much inequality, so much injustice, and there is so much negative emotions here. So how is it possible, facing all of that inequality and injustice, which is now so visible, how is it still possible to feel part of a we? And how is it still possible not just to feel negative emotions?
Karsa. Oh. Now, number of problems which we are facing, our generation facing, the real causes in the past, our education system, as I mentioned earlier, not emphasis about emotion, how to develop inner peace and a healthy mind, and as a
health, hygiene, physical hygiene.
Physical hygiene, beside the physical hygiene, mental hygiene, emotional hygiene. So now, it is quite true. We can blame our past generation. They neglected. So today's world, a lot of problem. If you see the previous at least 2-3 generations, you should pay more attention about how to build healthy mind, nothing to do with religion, simply how to bring people who have more smile. Then these are easy. But sometimes you see people, consider more calm, like that. They more respect and smile. Sometimes they feel the 집중's considered.
No.
집중.
Silly. Silly.
Oh, too simple.
Silly. No.
So even sort of smile. You see, since our intelligence with different emotion, we make distinction. Even smile, or say, sarcastic smile, diplomatic smile. We need a genuine smile, not a diplomatic smile or sarcastic smile, like that. So these, you see, this sophisticated mind, you see, I think smile, even dogs, you see, when we show them smile, they appreciate. You see, they do not make distinction, sarcastic smile, diplomatic smile, genuine smile. So we human beings, I think, as too much smart, make distinction. So therefore, now education, I really feel education should include education about our mind, about our emotion. All the positive, constructive emotion, you see, based on reason. All destructive emotion based on appearances, not necessarily sufficient reason For example, anger is no basis, ultimately ignorance, or compassion based on reason. So compassion can develop through training, through meditation, further increase. Such as anger come all certain, but this is no way to meditate on anger. I think Matthieu. I think Matthieu, see, we may develop anger with meditation of wrathful deity. So actually, you see, the constructive or positive emotion, there is sufficient reason to develop, including health reason, and a happy family, happy world. Anger, no reason, just to come like that. So I really feel important is education should include education about mind, about emotion, as an academic subject, and health reason. Okay, now next.
So His Holiness, Andreas pointed out at the injustice of this crisis, that the poorest has been the most affected. Like in India, people who earn their wage day to day, if they have no work today, they cannot eat tomorrow. So even though many people were taken out of...
Sound.
Is it okay now?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, so, it's mostly the poorest people in the world which has been affected most by this crisis, a sense of injustice. In India, if you don't earn your wage today, tomorrow you cannot eat. So this is, even though many people have been lifted out of poverty, but in the 30 richest countries, the gap between the poor and the rich has increased over the last 30 years. But there's another aspect of this crisis and injustice. Recently, there was a report saying that since 1970, the world lost 65% of the wild animals population, 65%, 2/3. Another very interesting number is one estimate that the Homo sapiens, human beings, as we know, since they exist, only about 110 billions, because 10,000 years ago, we were only 5 million. So that's the number, 110 billion is the number of animals that we kill every 2 months, all the time. So shouldn't we extend this notion of common humanity to common sentience, the 8 million species who are our co-citizens in this world? And when we speak of modern sentient beings, that should be part of it. We should feel this sense of global sentience. So if you could say a few words about that, and especially the environment crisis, the young people are very, very concerned about that.
True. Firstly, as I mentioned earlier, in education, we should emphasize the importance of inner value. Then automatically, you see the gap rich and poor, that can reduce. You see, just think oneself about money or power, then you see that creates gap rich and poor. Individual country, there is a real problem, a gap rich and poor. And at a global level, I think the gap rich and poor quite serious. The northern world, Europe, I think highly, comparatively, much developed. And then Africa and Latin America, you see, so this, I think, a gap on the level of also the countries. There is a gap that we should reduce, this gap, rich and poor. And then, meantime, if we human being becoming more sort of compassionate, then automatically paying more attention about the suffering of animal. So now, for example, the beef farm in America, and now in India also, and a few decades ago, I noticed when we were flying, no poultry. Nowadays, many village, some poultry. So, Indian tradition, vegetarian, very good. But now, in the name of development, more chicken, more animal. So these beef farm, I think, environment, because of ecology, also you see, beef farm very bad. So besides also the concern killing animal, but also you see the environment, this chicken, millions of chicken and millions of beef, the environment issue also you see, I think very harmful. So now, while we sort of talking about also the animal, these things, we should promote vegetarianism. Now in India, all major monasteries, I think about 10,000 monks. So they have common kitchen, vegetarian food. So many schools also they voluntarily, you see, stop using non-vegetarian food. So now here in India, the vegetarian food, Indian vegetarian food, very good. And according to also the climate condition, very hot, the vegetarian food is more suitable. So one method, we should promote vegetarianism. And nomad, like Tibet and Mongolia, very cold, no vegetarian, no vegetable, no fruit, then it's difficult to say. But now modern facility, you see the vegetable, fruit, and these, you see, can because of the transfer, like that. And then when we see fishing, millions, limitless fish. There's no feeling when fish, you see, also the jumping. It's no feeling. These also sentient beings, they also have the experience of pains and also the anxiety. So all these are education, some related. So as you mentioned, we have to make effort to reduce this gap, rich and poor, international level or national level. Then vegetarianism, very important, very useful. Economically, also, I think, so something useful, I think. Okay. Now, next question.
So we have a question about young people. You know, it's very interesting over the last few years that young people suddenly got a strong voice. They say, you know, this is what will happen to us, to our next generation. And as, you know, the young girl, Greta Thunberg, she said at the UN, it's a treason to future generation. And they will say, you knew, yet you did nothing. So there are two aspects in the young people. Some feel great determination, great courage. They raise their voice. They tell to the elder ones, you are messing up the world. You should do something, not just words. And other young people feel quite desperate. They say, we are going nowhere. Everything is going to change, and we're facing great difficulty. This is what you did, and now we are getting the inheritance of that suffering. So what sort of advice would you give to young people to keep hope, determination, courage, that they can do something and they should influence today's world? Because sometimes they cannot vote yet for election, but of course they know that they will be the one who will suffer from our stupid sort of way of life. So how to encourage us to change our way of life, and how to give hope to the young people, what kind of message you would give them?
So younger generation or student, as I already mentioned, at very young age, I think pure human nature, more compassionate, more fresh, and sense of community. Then, as I mentioned earlier, our education system wants these children very honest, very truthful. Once they join education, not much talk about these things, rather material thing and sense of competition, these things. So key thing is our education. Present education very much materialistic oriented. So education, key thing. Then future generation, according some now, scientists about global warming. One hour meeting, one scientist from China, from Taiwan, he mentioned the judging present sort of rate warming. After a few decades, the global warming really reach high. So after a few decades, the many rivers of the planet, you see, will dry. So judging these sort of, also the guessing, finding. Then our world, I think 1 century, then no longer. So while we, next 1 century, we live much better, live with peace, not only with human being, but with other animal, and take care about our ecology, these things. Then after that, after about 1 century, according some Indian, also the literature, you see, mentioned. And anyway, you see, the whole sort of galaxies, there's some a logical sort of explanation. Anything which there is beginning, there will be end. So our whole galaxy, you see, firstly our sun also develop like that. So then our galaxies, you see, develop. Then, so there is, logically, there is end. So I think this global warming is one sign. Now we,
Passing through.
Oh, we are sort of reaching closer, the whole world burning. Oh, so then whole galaxies, some say this sun, itself just become hotter. Some say some star is become become like sun. So the one period was the destruction of the whole universe by fire. Another occasion by water. Another occasion by air disappear. So that's Abhidhamma Shakarika clearly mentioned that. So the whole world, as I mentioned earlier, there's a beginning, there will be end. So now, that is a Chinese ecologist. He mentioned after a few decades, the Tibet will be like Afghanistan, desert, very little water. So now these, nobody can do by nature process. I think Buddha also you say, cannot do nothing. Jesus Christ also you say nothing can be done. So these are nature process. Go like that. So sometimes these sort of information, these thinking useful. We too much grasping the present and fight, killing. No use. The whole world now towards ending. So much better. A few decades, few centuries, we should remain happily, peacefully, much better. Then the whole world disappear. Like that. Okay.
But right now, His Holiness, the main climate crisis has been caused by increased human activities. So young people are very concerned by that. I don't know, Andreas, if you have some data about that.
Right.
No, this is what we see from the young people, right? That some of them, they want action. They want to see a change. And they blame us, the older generation, to do it. And to some degree, they're right. So maybe they will not wait just for the fire to burn us all off. They want to see some action. And how can we support them in this? What tools can they find to figure out how to navigate this uncertainty?
Kasa.
Shenge nala kashe semshu che chen da darum chan ji song na shin jigden di taman tong ru yu na ya ta da ma zo nebe ring de la khanda shenge kashe ta de ma zo cheje ma wo chi gembe mirab gembe cheje ma wo chi la ten ta da kanye ma wo che yu ba tin set up yu ba chi ta kun zu len gu pen du yu ba chi me song sa de la chi ku semshu ba ya so kan des kar na ke nas.
Yes, now I think many problems which we are facing is our own creation. Firstly, concept of war, violence, and as we already sort of discussed, gap, rich and poor. So these are our own creation. So now the younger generation, the take past generations' experience, then they should think more realistic approach on the basis of oneness of 7 billion human beings, and also taking care, especially environment. So younger generation, their mind, something open. So they can see past generations' mistake. I think we, older people, we have responsibility to tell them our generation, past generations' mistake. So through that way, younger generation, they can see the reality. They can, so they will follow the more realistic approach based on oneness of 7 billion human beings, sort of compassion and environment.
Thank you.
You know, in Buddhism, we have this notion of valid cognition, you know, tsema. And so science also tried to bridge the gap between appearance and reality.
Right.
In this crisis, there is a kind of general distrust about science. I mean, just yesterday, one president, the US president, says, I don't think that science knows about climate. So, and in the public also, there's a kind of sense of, you know, the scientists have their own agenda and so forth. So isn't it science also a search for the valid cognition and for getting closer to reality to find the right solution?
Now, according to my own experience, since my childhood, I have keen interest about science. Whenever I received some toy which moving, few moments I play, then open how it work. Then is one movie projector which belongs to the Dalai Lama. There is small, because a dynamo, dynamo. So I develop interest how produce electricity. So since then, after I came India, I have more sort of opportunity meeting with scientists. Then also the Buddhist tradition, the Pali tradition, mainly based on Buddha's own word. Then Sanskrit tradition, on that basis, Buddha's own word, or my follower should not rely on my word, but rather you should experiment. So therefore, the Sanskrit tradition extensively use reason, logical approach. So I found the scientific sort of research about reality without any belief or just investigate. So that's the Nalanda Sanskrit tradition, similar investigation. Through investigation, logical approach, if Buddha's own word, some contradiction we find, we can reject. So like Nagarjuna and those great Indian masters, you see, they make distinction. Some Buddha's word we can literally accept. One Buddha's word we cannot accept. We emphasize more importance of logical approach. So the Nalanda tradition, Nalanda way of approach and the scientific way of approach, research. So therefore, I have, so over now, about 40 years, I have serious discussion with modern scientists. Very helpful. We can learning each other. And then modern science not yet developed about mind, about emotion. So now number of scientists, now including this Varela, Varela, is showing interest about Buddhist logical approach and modern science. So I think, according to my own experience, we can learning each other. Modern science about mind, about emotion, never develop. Now we can help them. And then some other field we can learn from scientists. So now, in a way, we are ending the whole, whole world. But meantime, we get more opportunity, more thinking. Old people, something fixed here. We modern younger people open, very good.
So, Your Holiness, you spoke about Karuna. So to conclude, I think we should need to spread the Karuna virus.
Yes.
So,
Right.
and so Amy, I think maybe say a few words of thanks to conclude, and thanks, His Holiness.
Thank you very much, Matthieu. Thank you, Your Holiness.
Karuna, you see, compassion. It's the basis of our survival. Animal, we human being, our basic sort of, also the basis of our survival is a sense of concern, of well-being, other, our community. So animal also, the compassion, karuna, is the very much basis of entire sentient beings' sort of existence. Without karuna, then now, for example, last few centuries, or not only few centuries, I think since many years, killing human being without karuna. Animal, or those animals which survived, they also, you see, a sense of caring each other. So karuna, nothing with to do with religion, but basic sort of concept of our survival, karuna, is very important. So whether believer or non-believer, even animal, you see, karuna is the basis of our survival. I have one question. The mosquito seems to say no karuna. when I I have shown the one mosquito no malaria, occasionally some give blood to mosquito. Then that mosquito, you see, enjoy my blood, and then his body become red and thick, and then finally he fly. Seems the mosquito no ability to appreciation. So in basically all our survival, even animal, very basis is compassion. Anger is destroyer. Compassion is the sustained way. Like that. So we really need, whether believer or non-believer, compassion is key thing. You individual also, you see, with a more compassionate heart, more peace, more happy, more restful. Anger brings suspicion, anxiety, and quarrel. So compassion really bring, and with that, physical health also differences, like that. Thank you.
So much.
Thank you very much, Your Holiness. We'll leave you, Your Holiness, having much deeper understanding of the we, of common humanity, than when we arrived. And I hope that, I know these questions are urgent for our times, but they're also universal questions, yes? So I hope we have another occasion to continue our dialogues with you, maybe
Yes.
in person.
Yes, certainly. I'm ready. At least the next 15, 20 years, I'm ready. That difficult. I think we can communicate with people on this planet from heaven. I can send some message. Okay, according to some, you see, some indication, some predictions. My age, about 108, 113, may live. So, anyway, so my daily prayer is, so long space remain, so long sentient being remain, I will remain in order to serve. Like that. So very purpose of oneself is helping other, serving other, is the meaning of life. Isn't it? So Shanta, there was also the verses, very good. Dr. Shenji Dungeta Yangda Jawar Machana Saja Yitu Miduju Koanaya Dewame. De Yongne Gunse Changshu Simji Dashane, Dene Dewar No. Dene Dewar No, Simshi Sushi Giru Yurus. Very wise, very wise. We are selfish. If you are really selfish, practice altruism, help other, that's fulfill your wish. Selfish, just self-centered, is foolish selfish. We should be wise selfish rather than foolish selfish. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. See you again.
Thank you, Your Holiness.